Welcome to the Religiously Offensive Podcast.
I've not had Taco Bell's breakfast. Although, I mean, with all the crazy stuff I like the waffle sizzly, which I had this morning
Well,
again.
they used to have a waffle taco.
JJ's had a day.
They had
Dave's
a waffle
triple.
taco. Like the taco was made from a waffle. A waffle.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah.
There's no
Do
way.
they not still?
that
I don't know.
it's just like a Mexican breakfast burrito. It's fantastic.
Chorizo,
Yeah.
something. Yeah, but so this morning I went to Wawa, and they have this new like peanut butter fudge coffee brew.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw
I've had
that.
it twice now. It's pretty good.
Well, does
And
it
it's
taste like
fantastic. Well, it's just regular coffee. It's not sweet or anything.
You
can
get
add your
a
own sweetener.
solid like peanut butter taste.
You do, but what's even better is the smell. So, like, you get it in the car in the morning, it smells like coffee, peanut butter, You're just like, this is a great smell.
Am I wrong?
I wouldn't
thinking that
expect it to be a great
usually
smell. But
the
then,
smell of coffee is better than the taste of coffee.
I would sign off on that. Yeah.
well, by the time it gets to my tongue, I'm just want the caffeine. That's, you know what I mean? But yes, I agree. The smell is like nostalgic, brings
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
memories.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really cool.
So you had a Dave's triple last night, followed up by a waffle sizzly today.
Sure did.
I love that for you.
Well, it's because I had worship practice and it didn't get out till like 9, and I didn't eat anything. So I was a little hangry.
We can't have that. Got
It's one of those
beast.
that feels so wrong that it feels right. You just gotta
Waffle sizzly
gotta
from Wawa.
smash that burger on the way home.
Shout out
Like-
Wawa. Give us a sponsor.
No, but yeah, wow, Wawa.
I'll take a discount on gas. I don't need any money.
Yeah, that's true. Did you see that meme? Christina had sent it to me, so I forwarded it to you.
Yeah.
Just now?
No,
It
the
was
one he
a
sent
couple
last
days ago.
night.
Yeah, it was just last night.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
But basically,
I've had it up to here.
by the time I get like my food at nighttime, it's like I deserve it. That's how like my mindset is. You know what I mean?
Like,
That's how I convince myself that it's a good idea. You're just
okay.
like, you've worked hard all day. You deserve this. This is like what I think. It's a horrible relationship to have with food.
next thing you know, you're shoulders deep in wrappers.
Yeah, right.
Wendy's.
Yeah, the candy. Like, how did I eat all this stuff?
You know what I had last night? As I was watching Steph destroy.
It was such a stupid game.
I love it.
It's the
Is that
dumbest
what
NBA
happened?
finals in the history
was
of
it?
NBA finals.
They won it last
It
night.
was so lame.
It was sick. But
It was sick.
Boston just
Got a
took
super
a
fan.
dump. Like, it was the
totally
most-
did.
It was the worst finals. Not even like maybe one close game out of 6.
I don't know, man.
They
I
won,
think
weren't
it's the worst.
I mean,
Boston
was ahead.
trash.
I think
They
you
were
just-
ahead
you
3
just
to
think-
2, right?
They went up
No,
2-1.
The
2-1.
Warriors came-
And then they lost 3 out of the next 4.
That stinks. That's how Golden State lost to the Cavs. Remember that?
Inexperienced.
Do I?
Oh, that
They were down
was-
3-1, right?
First
Wasn't
team in
it
history
like-
to come
yeah.
back from 3-1, especially against the all-time winningest regular season team, LeBron James. Let's go. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
I'll never forget.
I
where
co-sign all of that. Yeah,
Luke has a
I
few
do
like,
hate the Warriors.
like
still,
stems
but-
in his head. It's just like when given the opportunity, I'm just gonna say this without blinking.
Like-
yeah,
I'm passionate
out.
about that one right there.
Yeah, that one. See, that's like my reference for an epic NBA Finals.
Okay, well, that's literally the most. Like, that only happened one time in history.
I'm just saying we need to get LeBron back in the playoff mix. This year was just wrong.
You're not wrong.
So, you talked about doing what Gen Z slang?
Sure.
All right, here's 50 Gen Z slang words with meanings.
Little whippersnappers.
We'll go through all 50.
What are these little
but-
turds saying
Don't
these
tell
days?
us the meaning. Just quiz us.
Right. We got to come up with it ourselves.
Fam is fam. That's the first one.
That's
easy.
I mean, come
It's
on.
a shorter word for family, but don't be fooled. It can be used to describe your friends or the way millennials use bro.
Wait,
Oh my
are we all?
gosh.
Are we all?
Or the
millennials?
British would say, bruv.
I don't know.
When does millennials
Bruv
start
or
and
mate?
Bruv.
end?
Mate.
I say bruv instead of bro.
I think mate is multi-generational. So many people say
Mate?
that. Yeah, mate.
Is
Mate's
that-
just a consistent thing.
I always think more Australian when I hear mate, but I suppose it's probably British also.
It is. Well, yeah,
JJ, how
I
old
was
are
like,
you?
good eye, mate.
35,
You're a millennial?
I think. Yeah, unfortunately.
I think we need to look that up.
Yeah, there's it was 80, I think it's 85 or 83 or something.
To what?
Hold on.
98?
Yeah, I really don't know how long the generations last.
That's a critical point if we're all the same.
81 to 96.
Okay.
So we are
We're
all
the
millennial.
same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel closer to you.
Very
guys.
diverse.
When were you born, Luke?
94.
Oh, you are a millennial.
I am indeed.
Glow up.
Glow up.
Yeah, I got that.
Makeover from bad to good.
Yeah.
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 I had a major
CEO.
glow up in my
Do people
life.
just say CEO? This is like if you're CEO of something, means you mastered it or you're
Like a
pro.
boss.
Yeah, like boss.
I didn't know
I
that's a
can
thing.
say I've never said that.
Yeah.
Cancel
Or called you
culture.
CEO.
Yeah, we've Stan.
Yeah, I know
Fan,
that.
is
one.
that
I stand
fan?
on it.
Stan.
You know what that's from?
No.
This is my. I hope I'm right. The Eminem song.
That's not what the slang comes from, because the stan is like if you like a couple that just got together, you're like, I stand that.
Right, but
But I don't
the
think
meaning
stan.
of it.
It's a combination
You know
of,
what
like,
Stan Eminem
stans?
is?
Yeah,
Is the song
Stan.
where Eminem had a like a psycho fan that
was
was
obsessed.
obsessed with him.
Right.
I don't think it's the same.
Why? That's
Was
what
his
makes
name
sense.
Stan?
Though.
I think
Yeah.
it is. I think it is the same because
Really?
it's a combination of the word stalker and fan.
Because if you're obsessed
Yeah,
with a
but
new
when you're-
couple, you're standing over them.
means
like
you're- it
Stan
means you're
did in the
obsessed.
song.
I guess I don't.
It means
Yeah, I
you're
don't know.
obsessed, but not in a creepy way.
I guess when I say stand, I'm like, I stand behind that.
Just
Were you
without
putting the
the
D
I'm not-
on
I'm
the
not
end
like-
there, or are you
no, like,
just
no.
dropping the D?
E boy, or E
the
girl.
D for sure.
Okay,
For life.
we're only on
anyways.
6 guys.
Well, wow.
cruising.
I just learned something new.
There you go.
See, this is what
Stalker
we're here
fan.
for.
That makes perfect
That's
sense.
what we're here for.
Yeah.
E-boy or e-girl. This is similar to emo or goth culture, but they use the internet to express themselves.
Wow.
Look at that.
Little TikTokers.
Never heard that.
W.
And they're
We all know
black.
what that means.
W.
Dank.
I got
Dang.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
older though. That's
Accident and very high
see,
quality.
dank is like millennial thing.
I mean, maybe late millennial. Ghosting.
Yeah, I know that.
Ghosting someone means you're ignoring them or stop texting
Were
back.
you a pro at
Salty.
that
We
back
get
in your
that.
prime, Doyle?
Big yikes
He said, yeah, I
Confirm
know
nor
that.
deny.
is used when you're
Wowza.
Big yikes.
so embarrassed that yikes doesn't do justice. Oh, okay. Bougie. We got it. Finna, short for I'm gonna.
This one. Just great hearing him.
I know.
Can you use that in a sentence,
Is
please?
it
Yeah.
Fina?
Yeah.
Fina? What is?
Nah,
what
it's
is
like
it?
I'm
It is
finna,
finna, yeah.
I'm finna make a grilled cheese.
I'm gonna make a grilled cheese.
I can't even.
Where did grilled cheese come from?
This is the first thing that popped in my
I'm
mouth.
finna.
Like I'm fixing to
Finna.
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 That was great.
Yeah. I won't use that.
That is the caveat. You should you should have to say all of these in a sentence.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that.
An older.
Not the sentence they give.
I'm finna read the rest of these.
There you go.
An older but still relevant term, cap, means to lie. If you say no cap, means you're being authentic.
Cap.
No
That's cap, bro.
Oh, I saw this
cat.
meme yesterday of this kid like in his class on his homework. His question was, "Please write it like a description of cap, like normal cap, probably."
all
And he
cap.
wrote lying.
High key.
High
Simply
key.
the opposite of low key. I've used that, not even knowing it was a thing. So
Everything low key is high key though. That's the irony in
exactly what I've told you many times.
Yeah,
That's fair.
they're the same.
Totally fair. But low key. See how much of a hook grabber that is? Justin just
Low-key.
stared into my soul.
that. All of my
Chaggy.
What do you have to say?
How do you say this?
What?
Cheugy. Chuggy. Something that is chuggy is not at all trendy.
I got
Never
nothing
heard that
there.
one.
Clearly, I'm not. I am chuggy.
I don't know nothing about that.
Simp. Someone does way too much for the person they have a crush
Yeah,
on.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that's what that meant.
they're simping.
Oh, yeah.
Camp,
simp
something
for your girl.
something that's ironically trendy. One might consider
never
Crocs to be in the camp of aesthetic.
Justin,
Did you hear that,
should
Luke?
sip a
Did you
little
hear
bit.
that? I don't know if you heard that.
No, I didn't. Bring it.
All right, this is camp,
Bring it.
right? Something that is ironically trendy. One might consider Crocs to be in the camp aesthetic.
Except Crocs are timeless.
Snack,
Hot take.
person you find attractive.
I don't even smile.
TFW stands for that feeling when. Okay.
All right.
Woke. Okay. Sip tea is alternative to spilling the tea.
I love that. I love that phrase.
Meaning
Yeah.
you're sitting back and listening
that
to
all
the
the time.
gossip rather than partaking in it.
Yeah.
I see.
We're just sipping tea.
I love that phrase.
Yeah, that's good.
She is
Sip tea.
spilling the tea.
So spilling the tea is
Spilling
saying
the tea
gossip.
is
Sipping is
saying
just being
gossip.
just
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
it.
Sipping is
Correct.
just standing there.
Correct.
Yeah.
What do you call it when someone like pries though? Like they want the gossip. That should be a thing. That should be a
That-
separate term.
Is stewing the tea.
They're thirsty for the tea.
Yeah.
Thirsty for the tea. L, another simple letter turned slang. L is the opposite of W, meaning a loss rather than a win. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Taking L's.
Never heard that. Take several seats.
I feel like that's what Gabby would use.
I love that.
I'm sorry, sir. You need to take several seats right now.
Take way more than one seat, you loser.
Do me a favor. Take a few seats.
If someone is
Oh,
really getting on your
finally.
nerves, you might tell them to
That's
take
so
several
good.
seats.
We're gonna get to the bottom of push and pee though. Also by the end of this, if it's not on the list, I'm doing my own independent research.
I thought the children told us about that one last week.
I still don't understand it. though.
We're going to need some backed research for that one.
I got Urban Dictionary on lockdown.
I needed that.
Drip is another word for swag.
Drippy baby.
Bop, when a song or album's exponentially good.
I use that one.
What is it?
That's
Bop.
a bop.
I don't use that.
Bop?
I guess
Yeah,
I
never
do
heard that.
to make
That's
fun
a
of
bop.
it.
J Beebs.
Sheesh
Makes
is
bops.
used to hype someone up if they're looking good or doing something good.
It's not just sheesh.
Can you
yeah.
say it? Yeah, you can't say it in a normal tone.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Sheesh.
I didn't know when I read it. I'm not reading context and looking up how to pronounce these.
You got to read it like the Bible. Context is everything, JJ.
All right. Acronym is short for if you know, you know. It's commonly used to reference to inside joke or something only a specific community understand. LYKYK.
Yeah.
You ever seen that?
It's I,
I.
capital I.
If you know, you know.
Oh, if. Yeah. IYKYK. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Just like a
all right.
hashtag.
Lowercase
kind of-
L and
Honest
uppercase
mistake.
I are
I know.
Yeah.
confusing.
100%.
One of the things I hate most about the English
100%.
language.
Yeah. That's definitely top 5.
Hits different. Yep. Simply put, bet means
Bet.
yes. It can be used to confirm something. It
I
can be
use that
compared
often.
It could also be used as no. It could
to the
also be
millennial
used as
term
okay.
word. It's like word. All right. That
Word.
It has like 15 different meanings.
vibe check. That will be used around this office. I'm gonna do that. Vibe check.
Vibe check.
Just vibe check. We should do that with Austin or when he's here next. Just like, hey, vibe check.
We should just look at Austin and be like, "What's your vibe, bro?"
What's your vibe?
See what he answers.
Just say it. Well, say it to Corey. Just see what he says. Period. T. What? Using
Period.
Period.
But it's still got a D in there. So
Because you got to say it like hard.
Period.
Period. Oh no.
period.
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 Oh my gosh.
Use the end of a statement adds emphasis. Period. Oh, wow.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
Catch these hands.
Like you can catch these hands. Period.
Yeah, straight
To
up.
start
you
a
catch
fight
his
is
hands.
generally used in a confrontational manner.
I feel like it's got to have so much sass behind it.
Or you want to throw hands. Either one's acceptable.
But it's so funny. Like, who
Trying
does
to
that
catch
anymore?
these hands, bruh.
If you're gonna
catch.
insult or start a fight, you just do it. No one like warns you. It's like, all right, catch these hands.
Trying to see these hands, fam.
We fixing to throw hands.
We finna throw hands.
Finna
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah,
I'm
get
slowly
the
getting more and more
slang.
irrelevant.
vibe check. If you drag someone, you're criticizing or making fun of them. This can be equated to roasting someone. Oh, okay, drag. I get it. Finesse means to trick or manipulate someone in a situation or to get what you want.
Straight up, bro.
I'm weak. Similar to I'm dead.
I love that one.
Another term you use and you find something hilarious.
Weak AF, yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten that one context before. Some of my friends say that. Main character. It's a phrase used to describe someone who's generally well liked and charismatic.
Oh, that's
We use it to describe someone when they're making a scene, but not
main
necessarily in
character
a
vibes.
bad way.
Yeah, you're giving me main character vibes. Yeah.
I've heard that.
Okay, sis, shortened version of sister. Okay, used to describe a great friend, no matter the gender. So
Is sis?
it's SIS.
So you can be my sis?
like
Yeah.
sister.
I'll be your sis. Sending me, another term.
Pop
you
off,
usually find
sis.
something particularly funny.
Yeah.
JJ
What do you say? What was that one?
Sending me.
Sending me.
Another term that is particularly funny.
JJ is sending me right now.
This is sending me. You're sending me.
He's got no like
41 slaps, baby. Used to describe how exceptional something is.
It includes the number 41?
No. That's the number.
Oh,
in the
41
list.
is the, okay, gotcha.
that's Justin's bread and butter right there.
41 slaps, period. Slaps. Bussin'. Quirky word you use
Bussin'.
when you taste something delicious.
Wait, really? It's about tasting tasty food?
Yeah, yeah.
bussin'.
Bussin' right now, boy.
Yeah, this
Really?
chicken right now is busting.
This grilled cheese be bussin'.
I'm
Okay,
saying this
now I
lunch today
want
finna be
context.
busting.
Yeah, we all be bussin' Justin's
But it's
lunches.
only food?
That's not it.
Incorrect.
His lunches be bussin'.
Yeah.
That's
We're
not it.
busting the lunches.
It says taste
Yeah, so
something
it's not a
delicious.
verb, it's an
It
adjective,
says
I
a
think.
quirky word to use when you taste something delicious.
Right, but
Bussin'.
An
Yeah, but I'm like,
adjective,
I'm
not a
not
verb.
bussing this food.
This
This
is
food
bussin'.
is bussing.
right.
This kitchen
It doesn't say.
It doesn't
It's
say.
describing the food.
Sus, obviously.
Great word.
Snatched. Someone's looking snatched. They look really good, particularly in their outfit. That's
Really?
I say that
I
often,
could have seen that
actually.
going the other way.
That seems demeaning to me.
Anytime Rachel buys a new outfit, I'm like, looking
I
snatched,
don't know
babe.
why,
It
but
seems like a whore word, right? Like snatch,
That is so
Yeah,
good.
it's a nice way to say it.
snatched. You're looking snatched. Okay. Guap, money,
Guap.
lots of it.
That guap, baby.
That's I haven't heard that forever.
Small. Something's a small. Most cases, exceptionally adorable.
You just
know.
call it a small.
Small. S-M-O-L.
I haven't heard that one.
Either. This ain't it, Chief.
I love that.
Another way of giving disapproval. That's nice. Extra. Someone who's out there and enjoys taking things to a new level of flamboyance.
Yep.
That's so funny.
Clapback. Response or comeback after you've been called out for something. Goat. I mean, goat's been a thing for a little bit.
Yeah.
His independent research led him to laughter.
These Urban Dictionary examples are great.
Of what? Which one you look? Oh, the snatch back.
Well, I got pushing P and cracked going right now.
Snatched. It was snatched.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, okay.
Pushing. What is pushing P? Why don't you tell us?
Do you want to know?
Yeah, it's
Are we
time.
done with?
I think we've talked about this before. I just forget.
That was great. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, and that was fantastic.
Yeah, so Urban Dictionary's got snatched as used to take the place of on fleek, perfect, on point, or fashionable. Just
On
the next
fleek.
iteration. Yeah,
What-
fleek.
what
that one was
started that,
bad.
bro?
I don't know.
right,
Some,
what was
some
Pushin' P?
stupid song probably. Pushin' P. Most people think it comes from the American rapper Gunna,
Yeah.
That's true. Confirmed.
but it
Origins
basically
in the 20th century.
it means like so like if you spend your money on things that you wanted like for a time and like you got it now, like you got the money to spend, you're pushing P. If you spend your parents' money on stuff and flexing it, you're not pushing P.
Okay. That's totally different than
Okay.
anything I've heard so
Yep.
far.
Interesting.
Anything that I would have assumed.
Another one. When your backyard inside
The way he's
and
saying
outside,
Yo,
you pushing
backyard.
P. What? When your backyard inside and outside, you pushing P.
When your backyard is
When you
inside
got a
your-
private jet, you pushing P. When you renting houses and cars, you kicking P.
I can't keep up with this.
So you want to push, not kick. I think is the idea. These are just examples I'm getting.
I'm so confused.
You want to push, not kick.
You're trying to push P out. Okay, this one's not right. It's talking about actual urine.
Let's talk about actual urine. All right.
All right, give me
Push
cracked.
and
What is
pee.
cracked?
Be right back, guys. I gotta go push some pee.
That's fantastic. Okay.
All right.
Cracked it goes, looks like internet gaming term used for people who are insanely good at something. I can't read the first
Gabby's
example.
cracked at Halo.
I'm
for
surprised
sure.
grind wasn't in there. Because that's one Lincoln says all the time.
Grind.
Like
Grind.
I'm grinding. I'm on my grind, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
He's
it's
not a millennial.
It's like
though,
I
is
gotta
he?
grind. No, I mean that's like practicing, like playing video games for hours to get better. Is
That
what
one's
that means.
has some staying power.
It's timeless. I feel
That
like.
one's been
Yeah.
around for a minute. Yeah.
Been on the grind.
But like, yeah, on the grind. But like specifically, like, Dad, I gotta grind. Like now, it's like they just use it as this like power verb.
Yeah, I love that. I'm here for that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Supposedly, cracked came from Fortnite culture.
well,
There
doesn't
you go.
surprise me.
Yeah.
Did you see him just clutch that final circle? Dude killed like 3 guys with no mats and won. Yeah, he's cracked. That's their actual example.
Wow, that was.
That's from 2019, so it may not be that new.
Yeah. Well, if I hear someone say that online, they'd get a big okay out of me because I have no clue. I can't add to that. So here's some interesting stuff here. We were going to talk about just I guess perception of religion and politics, not politics, religion as far as like how it's perceived by Americans, and politics kind of is a part of that again because for some reason people have intertwined them. This is an article that says Americans have positive views about religion's role in society, but want it out of politics. And then it says most U.S. adults want religious groups to stay out of politics. So 63% said keep out of political matters, and then 36% says express views on social political questions. So during political elections, should churches or other houses of worship come out and favor one candidate over another, 76% say no, they should not. 23% say yes.
What about the other 1%?
The other 2% of people.
2%. 76, 23.
It says there's 2. That's weird. The math is wrong on here.
Boy.
Churches and religious organizations have 37% say too much influence in politics, 28% say not enough, and then 34% are say the right amount.
Okay.
I don't know. Weird. Anyway, there's some more charts here, but I guess how do you guys see that? I mean, this they made it about politics. Like we'll get into perception and everything like that. But what are your thoughts? Do you think churches have too much? We talked about this briefly before. There's that Greg Locke dude we talked about in Tennessee who's an absolute crazy freaking guy who is, I mean, honestly pretty destructive in his viewpoints, but he was the one that was basically saying you can't be a Christian and vote Democrat.
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. But do you think churches talk about politics too much?
I guess no is probably, I don't know, in my experience, I haven't been around it too much. I've never really heard someone in person actually give a sermon about like,
Who to vote
this is who we should vote for or whatever. I mean, the biggest, we talked about it before, but the biggest, hot button issue is always just abortion with all of that. And so I feel like there's so many elements
Here's
of
a
it, and
different
we just
question.
make that one super, super big. So it's just like there's no justification for voting Democrat because this thing is
Because of that one
because
thing.
of this one thing. And I don't know. It's challenging. But I think more than anything that
So okay. Sorry to interrupt you. I do it a lot, but this time I have a question to ask you in the midst of your thought. What would you say that like 9 times out of 10 you would like basically like know what your pastor would expect you to vote for? Like for me,
just
it's
after
like
listening to him for a while,
yeah,
try to get like a read on
kind of
it.
like like if I like would I feel like comfortable telling my pastor that I voted opposite of what he did? Mm-hmm. Like you know what I mean? Like if I okay, so say you voted Democrat, right? Like would you be comfortable telling your pastor that, or would you expect like pushback? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, and
I've
that's,
never
it's not
really
necessarily
had-
what they're saying from the stage. It's what they're not saying. And it's like, clearly like a lot of pastors, like it's kind of obvious, like, okay, well, we're not going to tell you to vote for, but you know what we expect kind of thing.
I think it's just interesting because, I mean, you look at like Jesus' ministry in his life and, people would say he wasn't necessarily political by nature in the sense of like he wasn't like an activist trying to push a certain sort of political agenda, but he was very involved with like the political reality of that day in the sense of like people are asking him about, whether they should pay taxes to Caesar. People are asking him about real world examples about like how do we interact with our government, with like authoritative bodies that are trying to tell us what to do. Da 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 da. So, I mean, Jesus didn't really like pick a side, I feel like, but in the sense, I guess I only say that to say, like, I think it is the responsibility of pastors to really have to dive into these difficult political type of waters, and not in the sense of like pick a side and try to get your people to pick that side too, but like address it in the sense of like, this is what's happening in our world. Ultimately, like the political spirit is like out, just clearly just wants to divide. I mean, look at what happens when you take it to its extreme. It's just, you put people in their corners, and then now it's like, because of what's happened over the last however many years, and you could try to blame it on a million different things, but it's like or at least the loudest voices are on the extremes. And so it's like, so you think it feels like we've lost like a lot of middle ground, or there's a lot of people who just like maybe just shut down and don't really want to talk about it. Cause well, I mean, like, sure.
So like, what do you think the pastor's job then is to try to encourage unity, just period, over anything else, over specific political views?
Probably. And I think again, like, I think spiritual leader, his first job should be to like train or teach people like how to think, not what to think. It's like this, to me, it always goes back to this, like this God in us reality, where it's like, if I really want to become self-aware enough and silence out like the ego and the voices that have like bad intentions or that aren't coming from a pure place, like it's not hard to really land on like, this is probably what I should do. Or like, I just feel like most humans have this thing in them, and maybe some people just got to screw loose and they just don't see it, you know, whatever. But most people, I feel like when they're thinking in their right mind, they probably know what they should do or what they ought to do in terms of like, not just like who you vote for, but just like in life, like, should you treat people with respect and kindness? Like, yes, like simple things like that. But I think it's with all these things, I find it like refreshing when pastors or spiritual leaders are really encouraging people and also like just empowering them to really think for themselves and not to feel like they have to like just be a part of this group think. Like,
if it's genuine, I agree with you. A lot of time, like I said, I think there's a lot of times there's like an unsaid expectation. Even people who say like, oh, you know, you can do what you want. It's like, you know, you have free will, but you know, do the right thing. Like, I mean, it's, and what's crazy about politics specifically, and we can move on to the next thing here, but it's just that I think like Christians as well as like anyone who's kind of in their own wheelhouse with that stuff, like, you know, in their own, like I have my side and this is who I'm with, will tend to just see everything glamorous about their side and not see anything wrong with it, right? When there's obviously bad parts of both, like if you're going to look at the two big parties, right? But it's just like we tend to ignore the bad things, you know, because it's seen as the good party,
right?
And then we never talk about any of the skeletons, right? So it's
well, it's like anything. I mean, we saw it in like, you know, we live in these weird times where like, you know, violence and this stuff is becoming more common, and you see like both sides. I mean, it's just, I mean, maybe another part of the issue is we always use like these big, like kind of taboo words like hypocrisy or like, and we talk about the people on the other side as like hypocrites. And it's like, we got to remember that like, I mean, human nature is to be hypocritical. I mean, it's like we all have like ideals and things and standards we want to espouse to, and we all fall short. So it's like, it's just weird that we do this thing, like, just like you said. I mean, it's the whole looking at the speck in your neighbor's eye, and it's just getting hyper focused. Because I mean, you look at the way people will try to defend things or just not really bring things up. I mean, like especially with this whole like kind of going on right now, this whole congressional hearings on the January 6th insurrection deal, right?
Yeah.
You got one side that's literally just like, literally not a big deal. Everything's fine. The only person that died was like in the actual thing was a girl that was shot by one of the police men there or whatever.
No, the whole
and then
thing.
You have another side where it's just, the other side is just like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of our country.
No, I mean, it's not okay what happened, but just the same as these riots for everything else aren't okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just like
it's all not okay.
rational people are looking at the same thing, and like half of them are just like,
depending
nothing
on
to see here.
depending on their
half are
bias,
just like this is the worst thing that's ever happened ever.
Right, and it's flipped when you have like a BLM protest that goes south. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, it's just interesting. So let's see. The next one here. Many see religion as a force for good in society, but it's interesting. Of the people surveyed here, 55% think that religion does more good than harm. It's not very high. 20% think it does more harm than good. 24% say it doesn't make much difference. And
I saw a Gallup poll. Sorry, this is super random. A Gallup poll that said, for the first time, it was like the general like moral values of Americans. Like, is it like poor, fair, good, or excellent? And poor was like 50%. Fair was like I think 20-some%.
What is
good
that
was
based
like
on?
12. They just did a Gallup poll. They just
Like, what are they
polled
asking?
a bunch of people like the state of like the American morality and like values.
Oh, it was people's opinion about what the overall country,
Just the overall like direction
Okay.
and like kind of condition of our values. And it was like only 12% felt it was good. 1% felt it was excellent, which is, I mean, who cares? But either way, it was like 87% of people polled are just like, it's probably not great. Like, like, and it's like for the first time it's ever been that high. But like, it was just kind of shocking because, sorry, keep going.
No, but it's just some of the, like strength and morality in society mostly bring people together. Those are all 50% of people that would claim that and it's just pretty low. I would think, but I mean, then again, I'm a little biased because I've had more exposure to it. Most U.S. adults think religious leaders have high ethical standards. Yeah, 65% think that. So a few times per year, percent who say have very high ethical standards. So yeah, so it's clear that there's a higher importance on religious leader or a higher pressure on religious leaders to have high ethical values. These percentage of U.S. adults say religion is losing influence in America, 78%. Gaining influence, 20%. Those are the optimists, the enthusiasts like Luke. No, but it is. It's just interesting. Just over half of Americans say GOP is friendly toward religion. So that's interesting because everyone sees that as like the Christian party. When people say that 54% of the people think that it's friendly to the religious, which is interesting.
Does it have any stats on the other?
Trump administration, 47%. Democratic Party, 19%. Supreme Court, 18%. News reporters and news media, 10%. University professors, 6%. Yeah, I mean, those guys are brainwashed. But, it doesn't say this is just about religious.
And that's
friendly
all
to
of
religious
those groups.
How friendly they are to
So that's saying
religion.
who they would say the most friendly towards religion is.
Right. So,
That's interesting.
when asked, so basically, GOP, it would be like 13% unfriendly, 32% neutral, and 54% friendly. This is like how they're breaking this down. So, like university professors, it's like 54% say neutral, 37% say unfriendly, and 6% say they're friendly. Which I don't know who in the world. I mean, probably maybe people that go to Christian schools would think that. Partisan differences and views toward religion in public life. Most Democrats say religious conservatives have too much control over GOP. Yeah, it's interesting. Wait, is it too little? Right amount? Okay, so there's 3 sections here. Too much control. All U.S. adults. The Republican Party. This is. I don't really know how to read that. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, so this is just basically people playing into their bias. Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, it's just funny how, like, all this stuff is just tied to politics. Like, it's just like, it's almost like you can't separate them, but at the same time, people want them separate.
Yeah. And it's just one giant blame game throughout all of like human history. I mean, I was listening to someone talk about it the other day, and it's so easy for some people. Like, I feel like a lot we talked about earlier, there's a massive amount of nons, and they just call them like non-religious people that are like, they believe in a God or a higher power or creator, but they don't subscribe to an organized religion or whatever. And you hear, it's just a very common sentiment where people are just super critical of organized religion. And I've been guilty of this. But where you're just like, all like the Crusades and the Holy Wars and all the death and, you know, destruction caused by religion. And it's a very common thing, but it's like, I was listening to these guys talk about it, and they were more so like historians, and they were just like, all of human history, there's always been religions. Everyone had a religion. There weren't like, atheism wasn't really a thing back in the day. It's like everyone had their own deity, right? And so it's like, if you want to just single out all the bad things that happened because of religion or in the name of religion, it's like, then you also have to include all the good things that have ever happened throughout human history, because those also, for the most part, were you know, motivated by religion or their deity.
Humans, I think it was like humans, just natural inclination for violence and conflict is the same no matter what.
For sure.
I don't think that matters. Because it's like, because you can still have a conflict. I mean, just there's always a conflict when you're trying to, you know, persuade people about religion and everything like that too. So, or if it's like, oh, you're not part of our group, and religion doesn't necessarily just mean Christianity too. So religion could mean any kind of religion that would almost encourage extremism and stuff. So there are some weird ones out there.
Well, in the war itself has just shifted. Like, you know, before we had the internet, before we were so connected, like, you know, it was common for countries to invade other countries. I mean, World War II was not that long ago in the span of, you know, our history. But it's like now we live in this world where it's like, look at Russia and Ukraine. Like everyone in the world watches it and they're just like, not okay. Right. So it's like then now, for the most part, everyone sees Russia as the bad guys, except maybe like, I don't know, China. And then
there's a lot more on their side than you would think.
Well, just the optics of it. Right. But then now look at what's happening like with social media and with like mental illness. Like the war is just, in my opinion, gone from more of a physical outwards fighting to more of an internal mental kind of struggle for everyone individually. And we're just kind of like catching up and realizing like, oh, dang.
So this is religious service centers more trusting of clergy's advice on abortion than on immigration and climate change. Well, they shouldn't even be talking about that stuff. I mean, immigration and climate, that's not the job of a clergyman to talk about that. Anyway, I think it was just interesting. And then that kind of like, a lot of people. So back in, I think it was the 60s, because there was an article here. I was just reading that how Americans' belief in God has changed over 70 years. So, and you know, frankly, it was like, I think it was like close to 195, 97% of people back in like the 40s believed in God. And then it comes down to like 2014 where they did this again, and it was like 87% or something like that. I don't think that's a huge change. I think with the flow of information, I'm surprised it's not lower, honestly, just because it's easy to get confused, you know, if you don't have any guidance or whatever. So I think that's interesting. So I would say that Americans' belief in God hasn't really probably changed a whole lot fundamentally, but church attendance has fallen almost half. So like you look at the 40s, I think it was 3/4 of the population was going to church, and now it's below 50s, like 47%, which I think it's even less than that now. But it's kind of crazy to me, and it goes this whole thing where it's like, you know, people still believe in God, and it's like their desire is probably still to, you know, in some way please their God or whatever, but people don't want to be in church. Yeah, it's just kind of
it's just hard. Like when I look at those things, I just think about the reality of, bottom line, if someone felt like this was benefiting my life genuinely, like I would go. And I think that's part of why I never even growing up, I didn't have a choice. Just did it. And by the end of it, I just had a pretty bad relationship with church in the sense of just it was probably just a big point of pain because that was where I was my most like inauthentic, or I was maybe not that I wasn't authentic, but it's like I was the most like kind of on guard and really like, I don't know how to explain this well, because it's just, you can say like wearing the mask or living the double life or whatever, but it's like I didn't feel like I was trying to fool anyone. Like I felt like I was giving it a legitimate shot to really do my best and be the best like Christian I could be. But then I'd be out, you know, and just Monday through Saturday hanging out with people, and I just didn't have this desire to like witness to all my friends, and I was just like, I don't want to do what the Bible's telling me to do. It's like not like I'm trying to go out and
It seems like that whole
do bad things.
It seems like that whole position though, like as far as where you're at, and you're just saying like, okay, I'm trying to be the best Christian I can. I mean, that statement in itself tells me that you're just trying to follow a rule book.
Well, growing up for sure. Yeah.
And it's just not. It's not coming from somewhere. You're not desiring to be this way. You feel like you're constricted.
Well, a lot of it is, you know, I wanted to make my parents proud. Like I loved my parents. I had tons of respect for them. So it's like there's one element for sure where, you know, I didn't want to disappoint people that were like people that I loved the most. Yeah. And so,
well, it just goes to that, like you said before, you know, guilting people into giving money doesn't encourage, you know, living a life of generosity.
Yeah, and I mean, what do you do? Because it's impossible. Like, I get why parents want their kids in those environments. Like, they want that stuff to kind of rub off on them, and they want them to see things, you know, the way they see them. It makes perfect sense. Humans have always wanted to have, you know, similar belief systems with loved ones.
It's so tough, and everywhere you see, it says, like, because, I mean, half the time, my son doesn't want to go to church. You know, I mean, he's like, I hate church. And then, I mean, if it wasn't for his friends, he just wouldn't go. Yeah. It'd be hard to get him to go. But, you know, everywhere I say, it's like, oh, you just got to force him to go. Because, you know, the idea is he'll get something out of it. But
and that'd be hard, because I think about it.
So like, I feel like it builds resentment sometimes.
Yeah. Well, because I think about it in the sense of, like, when I was, like...
What's the alternative, though?
I don't know.
Well, because
I don't know.
I guess because I think about it, it's like when I would go to church, regardless of whether I wanted to be there or not, I didn't really care a lot when I was little. It was just such a big part of our life, and I had a lot of friends there. But I was also like the pastor's kid, so I was like the kid everyone wanted to hang out with. I was like, you know, you're just by default, like kind of in the in group or whatever. So it's like I can't imagine just being forced to go to church every week and I felt almost like an outsider, or I felt like
you weren't on that in crowd.
Or, yeah, you're just like, I don't really know what I believe. Like, I just kind of adopted the whole persona and all that stuff. And it was just kind of what our family did. And so I was just like, I'm going to be the best little pastor's kid ever, or at least when people are watching. And I mean, dude, I just like, it's kind of like cringe when he says like stuff like, I mean, granted, like, I feel like, I mean, he believes in God, but he'll say that, like, you know, I don't care about God, or he says all these things like to get a rise out of us.
Yeah.
And he does it like around church people and his friend. And then we're just sitting there with like, feel like we got egg on our face. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know. What do you want me to do? Like, no. I mean, this just makes us look bad. But at the same time, I'm just like, all right, half y'all kids who you're just like basically telling them this is the only way are probably going to fall, you know, away from the faith later. I mean, that, you know, that's what I'm thinking, right? I'm just like, because you're pushing it so hard.
I mean,
right?
Isn't it like 85+% of kids walk away from
I mean, so
the organized religion once they get out of high school?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, you know, and so I'm very clear, you know, with Lincoln about like, hey, this is, you know, I bring them to the door and I'm just like, hey, this is a decision you have to make for yourself. You know, I can't make this for you. You know, I'm not going to tell you that, you know, God gave you a choice. So, but you know, because I am so paranoid about pushing him so hard that it's going to just make him run away from it later. And at that point, there's a very small chance of people coming back. But I don't know. Like you said, the whole uncertainty and ending up in certainty thing, it's just like, that's kind of what I think about. It's just like, all right, he's real uncertain right now. Sometimes he's all on board, sometimes he's not. But hopefully later on, he'll just...
That's how I always felt like with, you know, people that would express concern with me about, you know, all my stuff. And it's just, all I can think of is just like you need to like read more about your God. Like, like if you really believed he is who the Bible says he is, like I'm gonna be fine. Like I believe that like we've talked about before, like you will find me when you seek me with all of your heart. And so it's like, I would probably say that I'd never really did an all in with all of my heart, really seeked it out. And I feel like I'm in the phase of life now where I really do want to know that thing. And like, I never really devoted enough time to it before because it's just what we did.
Yeah. Luke, what was before you found Jesus, what was your perception about God? About, I mean, any of that? Did you care? Did you know?
Yeah, I would probably describe it as it was always like in the way back of my mind as I was living life. But I tried my best to keep it there. It's probably what I would say.
Yeah.
So, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, you know, because just the way that, like, it just some of these polls, it's interesting because it's like how the country thinks about religion, you know, which a lot of that is Christianity. But it's just, they're just saying that these religious views, like, are causing people to have too many biases that are affecting political, like, you know, legislative policies and different things like that. And so, and there are also like churches, you know, like there are leaders that basically just say like, yeah, you know, Christians need to have a lot of influence in politics, and you know, because that shapes. But I mean, just politics are just the wrong way to go about it, right? Like it's just like we're just trying to create more rules as Christians, and it's just like, you know, we're going to vote for the thing that like makes this illegal, that makes this legal, that makes this okay, and we're just like, again, we're just creating, like, we're trying to put people in this trap. Like, it's like clearly like these people that don't believe in God, and we're trying to like almost like enforce our rules on them by creating policy. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, so what is that? What kind of effect is that going to have? Like, is that going to cause people to want to join, you know, the church, or is it like, I feel like it does the opposite thing.
Because I don't know, in my mind, it just, you like split people into these baskets of like certain people are just going to kind of push back and do the rebellious thing. And then other people are just going to just take it at face value. And like, I don't want to like, I mean, either way, it's just like, I don't know. I personally don't know how to just accept something because someone else feels that way about it. Yeah. Like there's always something in me where it's just like, okay, yeah, but like, why? Or like, have you tried the other way? Or like what did your journey look like? Did you just like buy it? Did you really like go through I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gabby, when you were, I'm not going to bring a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not going to bring that up. So when you were 8 years old, before, yeah. I know. Sorry, I'll give it a rest for a while. No, what I was going to say is, has your family always kind of just, have they been kind of like back and forth on who they vote for? Have they kind of always been in one camp or the other? Like,
no, they voted for Obama and they voted for Trump. So yeah, they go a little back and forth.
Back and forth.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there's some people that like just have a blind allegiance, no matter who the candidate is, to red or blue.
Yeah.
And it's just, that position irritates me. But especially in the church, like, you know, it's just like you ask anyone, it's just like, yeah, like I mentioned before, like there's a lot of Christians that just hated Trump when he was in the primaries, and then he won the primaries, and it's like, well, this is our guy, so we're going to just start loving him.
Don't you like have to be registered with like the parties to be even be able to vote?
That's one thing
Republican
too.
or
Yeah,
You don't
I mean,
have to be registered under a certain party.
not for president, because I think you can vote. So when for like congressmen and all that other stuff, I don't think they give you any choices on the other side, or primary elections. Like they don't even give you choices for which is again flawed. Like it's just so stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, the other, yeah. So I think for president you have a choice. But I don't know. I mean, it's just so the blind allegiance thing just bugs the crap out of me. And I think that like plays into this perception, this negative perception people have of Christians and how it influences politics. And if it wasn't for Christians' involvement, I'm saying Christians, religion, whatever, involvement in politics, I think people would be much more friendly to the idea of religion and, you know, its positive impact, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know.
It is. I don't know if this is accurate, but I heard that Christianity. I'd have to go back and look through it. It was. Do you ever listen to Dennis Prager? He's pretty right wing. Prager, you
maybe.
So he's definitely coming in very conservative, and he definitely sits way on the right. But he's a very smart guy. He knows. He actually used to be. I need to go back and go into the history of it. Because he was one of the guys that was like on the other side, I'm pretty sure, and then just did more research, and then he was just like, oh, and then he eventually like kind of changed some of his positions. But he was saying something about like, you know, sure, there's flaws with any religion because there's people involved, but he said something along the lines of like Christianity being the religion that first like began to outlaw slavery and stuff like that hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, so you're saying that it did have positive impact.
And even it, yeah.
Well,
and again, it's one of those things where it's like, because a lot of people were going through this cancel culture phase where people are trying to like rip down statues of like Thomas Jefferson because he owned slaves, or like George Washington because he had slaves on his like manor or whatever. And it's like this weird thing of just like, is the man allowed to be imperfect? And it was just very common at that point in history to have slaves of any, not of any ethnicity or any background. It was just, I mean, for all of human history, we've just always had slaves.
Yeah.
So like the whole outlawing slaves thing has been relatively recent for as long as humans have been here.
I mean, and for me, the statue thing, if you want to tear down a statue, it doesn't affect my life one bit. Go ahead, tear it down. Mm-hmm. I don't care. You know, I mean.
Well, it's the hard part. To me, again, yeah, ultimately, I don't really care. I think it's a stupid argument to even have. But in my mind, it's just like, what's the goal? Like, are you trying to say our heroes or the people we look up to have to be perfect? Like, it's just...
No, well, a lot of the statue thing, I think, was kind of the gateway to that whole idea of Marxism, to where it's like, we just need to destroy everything and rebuild. Because of everything, you know, being based on slavery and all this stuff. So,
well, because even to go, like, look at, like, the Bible, like, there were times where God would instruct people to like make like monuments to just look back and remember like where they came from or what happened or what, you know, things like that.
So my thing with the whole perfect people being involved in the church, leading, you know, we just can't, people are not perfect and we shouldn't have that expectation. Right. Mm-hmm. And that we even, the people even say that from the stage, like, you know, Christ accepts you as who you are or whatever. But then again, the way they hold themselves, the way that they come down on people who are caught in sin or whatever, it makes it almost seem like, okay, you say these things, but then, you know, you're expected to do this, this, and this. And, you know, if you're not showing these fruits of the Spirit or you're not following this way, you know what I mean, then we're going to come down hard on you. You know what I mean? Right. It's not their job. And so that basically creates a kind of an unspoken expectation to where people see that and then they're just like, all right, well, you claim that all your people are imperfect, but then you expect perfection. Mm-hmm. So what, you know, so then automatically they assume that all Christians who really, you know, say that they're followers of Christ should be perfect. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not necessarily because that's something the Christian community came out and said from the stage, but it's based on their actions. Right. This is like you're expected to be perfect.
Well, there's a lot. That's why when someone slips up, people are like, oh, well, there's another person who, you know, who failed. You know, it's just like to them, it's their perspective that Christians should be perfect because it's you're talking about people like outside church,
how they judge, huh?
You're talking about people from like outside the church.
Yeah. Most people outside the church think that like, hey, if you're a Christian, you believe this, like, you know, you should be close to perfect. You should be like, you should have a high moral backbone and all this stuff.
It's sad, like. Most, like a lot of people, whether it's just bad experiences or whatever, or just, you know, bitterness, like a lot of people probably have a view of Christians as just more judgmental in general. And so when someone messes up, it's like, oh, the judgmental one out here, like making me feel like trash for my life.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh, look. Yeah, I could see why that could be a thing. Why people like to just crucify people in the church, because it's just like, I think a lot of times they, not that it's right or wrong, but they probably view them as like a sort of a judge. And so it's like if you're in court and the judge gives you like a sentence and then you catch the judge slipping up, just be like, screw you, pal.
Yeah. Who are
Like,
you to judge?
I'm good. Yeah.
And that's why I strive to be relatable. I mean, I'm not going and, just like elevating myself and pretending that I could do no wrong. I want people to be able to approach me and talk to me and whatever. I'm not, because that's my biggest frustration, especially with leadership. It feels like they're on a pedestal. We've talked about this before. And it's not necessarily they're just saying like my life's perfect, but it's just based on the way, it's just like, it's like that pastor smirk where it's just like, you'll mention something that's kind of like a little bit like on edge and just be like, and it's just like a, it's this kind of like pretentious, attitude, the over righteous. Then you're just like, all right, like this is not the kind of guy that if I was on the outside, I would want to ascribe to his theology or whatever. Right. So it's like,
I think you're
I don't know.
right. I agree with you. And I think those people or those Christians that, expect, without saying it, they expect perfection or they expect a certain level of whatever expectation, that they're wrong as well. And I think the common theme is like, this is where like I get so frustrated with people because we like shoot ourselves in the foot as Christians, right? Because of that. And I think when you receive, like when someone receives the gospel authentically, it's like nowhere in that process does it elevate you in comparison to the rest of the people. When you receive the gospel authentically, you're still like, if anything, it should be more revealed to you that you are all in this together, and you are so similar to everyone else that God had to do all this to save all of you. Like, it's so much less about you, right? So it's just so frustrating when people in high level leadership are like that, because it just, why would I want to be a part of that versus someone who's really been affected by the message and the mission of God to come back and say, no, this is all of us, we're all in this together, and then really, really do it, And there's parties in both of that, but that's just, humans are imperfect. And if you're up there preaching that humans are imperfect and then you're expecting perfection, you're also showing your imperfection in that, right? So it's like,
Right.
it just drives me crazy.
I wish, and I know every pastor's different. I wish, more of the people that teach at our church would talk about their screw ups. Like, I wish they would
Sure.
talk about their struggles.
100%.
Because that's one of the only things that like people can really feel relatable to people is like, oh,
That's so
you
true.
you deal with this too.
I heard it put once, like, you connect with people through your weaknesses,
Yeah.
and then you can lead them from your strengths.
But if you never talk about your weaknesses, people just assume you don't have any.
Exactly, which is wrong.
Yeah.
Because every pastor of all time is a sinner.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah, the hard part too is it's just become, I feel like, more and more popular, or I don't know, it's probably always been like this, where the higher even a pastor would ascend, like in an organization or a church, like they become even more and more like isolated and insulated. And it's like the bigger the church, like the harder it is to land a meeting with the pastor, right? You got to go through like the associate guys and the executive, and like, so it's like there's
Another argument for Acts 2.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's just something that's unfortunate. That's this human nature that the more we like progress or succeed in any field, it's like you just get into a smaller little echo chamber, and then you just stop even having real conversations with real people, and it's just, you know, oh, I've got this massive church I've got to run or oversee, or I've got 5 campuses. Like, I don't have time to like spend time with just like the lay people. Like, I have to invest in like my leaders, and like we do this thing. And it's like, I think that's why Jesus was always so effective, is because he like absolutely spent most of his time with obviously the 12 disciples. But it's like he never stopped just literally going and sitting down with like the one person, and like, and not just sitting with them to like, he'd sit and actually listen. He wouldn't just like wait to talk. Cause I feel like it's so easy to do that. We're just like, especially with religion, it's like, all right, I've got good news to tell you. So I'm not really going to listen to your spiel or what you're going through. I just need to wait till you're done talking so I can tell you the good news, and just everything's gonna be fine, because you just need to like not care about anything and just give your life to Jesus. It's gonna be great.
But
But
that's
it's like,
part of the, like, everyone has that virus, I think.
for sure.
Definitely.
And so
I just want to say that.
yeah,
I do it all the time on here. I'm just like, wait, all right, I want to say something.
Yeah.
Well, I do it all the time. Like you'll be talking and a thought will pop into my head. So then I don't even really keep listening. I'm just like trying to not lose the thought in like kind of
sure.
where I want to go with
It's
it.
a learned behavior.
Instead, it's like I should just sit here and genuinely listen.
And just like make
And
a
then,
note
like,
of it or something.
Or like at the end of it,
It's also
if
true
it's
for
still
marriage,
there,
by the way.
No, I mean any
That's-
relationship.
That's tough. One step at a time, Luke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough when you bring
I
it
would
in.
say,
I think
to your point
pastors-
though, you're right. I think about the people that are like lead pastors over huge churches, right? And so,
We turn them into celebrities. Yeah.
right. And I think like you have a responsibility to like invest in your leaders so that they can handle their, it's like there is a little bit of that, but it shouldn't be like, I guess I base that off of Jesus. Like if he didn't invest in his disciples, then when he left, what would have happened? Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of that, but then I agree 100%. There shouldn't be like that's, I think it's both and. Like if you're the lead pastor, how cool would it be if you just showed up like and went and had, I don't know, like you were just available in some way.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the answer, and I'm not a lead pastor of a mega church, so I don't know what that's all about, but I think it should be both and is my.
Well, it's just hard because now in our current like church culture world, like I remember when I was really involved with the church, like we basically got involved with this whole like network of, I think called like Next Level Leadership. It's just like a bunch of churches, and like it's not a denomination, but it's essentially like a network of like-minded pastors and churches, and so they have like conferences, and the whole goal is like, sometimes you need like I forget exactly how they communicate it, but it's essentially like you need like people that are like running in your lane, people that are doing what you're doing. It's like you need like if you're in worship, you need to get connected with more guys that are involved in worship at other churches, or people that are kind of wearing similar hats. So the whole goal was like, networking to really, and I feel like that's really common. It's like pastors love to just like find their like squad of like all my like cool young hip pastor friends, and we're gonna go like golf once a week, or we're gonna do a lot of stuff together, which
think
is
that's
fine.
bad?
I'm not saying like have friends, that's fine, but it's like that's such a big part of, at least where I came from, I saw that a lot, and it's just like, yeah, that's not a bad thing to do, but if you're not spending a lot of your time just like with the people on the bottom, quote unquote, I don't say that in a bad way, but just like the lay people in the church that are just like your people. Like if you believe you're called to be a pastor, it is like the analogy of a shepherd with his sheep. Like a shepherd isn't going to just dip out on his flock of sheep to go chill with the other shepherds, because he's just like, oh, you guys get me. You got to go through the same BS I got to go through. Let's just pity party it up, boys. Like, it's just like, you can say it is whatever you want to say it is. It's fine. Like, have friends. I get it. But it's like, I just feel like we've completely lost the whole role of like the pastor. It's like, it's about the sheep.
I've been in positions before, especially as a volunteer, where I see the pastor like dip out to go to lunch and I'm still packing up. And that's that's just an example, but that's a morale killer. And it just makes me feel like, all right, so you're not here for me. It's like, you know, for me, for the church, for the common folk, I guess is like when I say me, that's what I mean.
So how do you do that if your church has 100,000 people? How are you there for 100,000 people if you're one person?
You can't. For me, the argument is like, why do we have churches that big?
Well,
'Cause
before
we're just
you go there,
pretending-
let's just say that that's a thing.
I think you just start where you can. Then you just show up places.
What is that? You know, like there's no. It seems like the only.
If I had a church that was that big, I would have a facility where people like genuinely wanted to be, and I would just hang out there all day.
But you have to run the church.
Yeah, but what? I mean, the infrastructure that most of these like churches have, like I've been behind the scenes and I've like watched like pastors, you can get your work done in like 10 hours a week. Like, and if you need days to write your sermon, I would argue like it needs to be just an expression of your lifestyle. Like when you go to like preach, like this should be your life where it's just you meditate on things and you really connect with God and you believe that he's giving you direction for the church. Like when I think about like Jesus' life, I mean, he went away to be with the Father and he spent time with the disciples. And then outside of the only thing else he did besides that was just interact with common people. So
Yeah, it's like Jesus didn't interact with every common folk. He just couldn't. But there are plenty of examples of him doing that, which sets the example. But I mean, I don't know. The churches that are that big, it just goes beyond human capacity or ability to connect with all those people on any kind of personal level, even a fraction of those people.
Right. The only efficient way to do it would be to have multiple pastors.
Yeah, which they do, like a lot of churches like that do. But I mean, I
you
think
still you can't stop meeting with those people.
Yeah,
on
Justin.
the bottom.
I guess Justin's point was probably more of you can't.
It's the insulation.
Yeah,
once you get
if
to
you
that
become,
point, and
if you're at
then
that point,
you're not
and
relatable.
the only people that you hang with are other pastors and other people, like, you know, and it goes to that, like you're kind of seen as untouchable. You know, that's a bad thing. But yeah, no, I get that. The whole reason I wanted to bring this up is really just, you know, and continue this conversation was, I mean, perception is really important. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when, you know, you're out there and people are just seeing, you know, people get further and further separate as far as like their perception of the church and what the church actually is or what it should be. So, I mean,
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
tricky for sure.
Yeah, it is tough. I was going to say something when you were talking, but
Wow,
then
you weren't listening?
I was listening. That's why I lost the thought. I lost the thought in lieu of listening.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's working.
You should be proud of that. That's good.
I am
good
proud of
thing.
that, but then forget what I was going to freaking say.
Yeah.
That sucks. Anyway, maybe I'll say it some other time. But anyway, we're over an hour. So, hey, appreciate you listening. We will see you next time. Ciao.